So here we are at the final stage of the studying process where I'm going to actually go ahead now and provide responses to the activity questions for the assessments. So what I've done there over at this right hand side of the page, I'm looking at my formative assessments, and they're broken up into a series of activities. So looking at activity 1 and starting with question 1 in activity 1. So the way that I like to work with this is we've got the question here: why should organizations collect, file and maintain accurate financial records? Now, by this stage, with the learning still fresh in my mind, what I should have is a good idea in my note taking that's of an answer of some description for this. So what I like to do though is actually grab that question and copy it and paste it into a new Google Docs document so I can start to draft down some of my answers. Now, one of the reasons that I like to do that is that when I'm working within Google Docs, everything that I work on is saved automatically. So there's no chance of me actually losing data because I have a blackout or something like that. Whereas if I was drafting an answer of some description over here, if something went wrong, I'm not sure what it could be, a blackout or something goes wrong with the internet, this information that I'm typing here doesn't get saved until I actually hit the save button. Whereas when I type information over here in my Google Docs, literally after every keystroke that I make, it'll go ahead and actually save that work for me straight away. So the chance of losing my work is very minimal. So with this first question here, why should organizations collect, file and maintain accurate financial records? I've gone ahead and drafted out some of my answers for this. So just open this page up a little bit more. The answer I've provided, now this answer is based on the notes that I had taken here. So the answer I'm going to provide for this is financial records will often underpin the other planning activities in the organization. It is the manager's role not just to collect information, but make steps to ensure that all the data is valid and correct and stored in an appropriate manner for retrieval by those who need to know it, who need it now, and for future needs. So where has that all come from? If I go back to my notes, it's all coming from these collection of notes that I've taken here and actually on that first page of information there. So with that information in mind, if I'm happy with that, I'll just copy that, come back to my actual activity, paste it in, and actually what I'll do straight away is I'll actually then save that. Now remember, saving isn't the same as submitting. My instructor has no idea that I've really saved that work at the moment, and I'm still able to edit and work on my other questions. So that's my answer for activity 1. I felt no need to actually save a document and upload it. It's only a short answer I'm providing here, so there's no great need to be uploading files for this. So then having a look at the next question that we've got. So I'd follow the same process. What are the expectations of managers and supervisors in relation to budget or financial plans? Now I needed to look into my notes carefully for this because there was no particular area within my reading that explicitly used that sort of language. So I just needed to evaluate, based on the information that I've gathered, why that information is useful. Now, particularly on page 3, I can see the note that I've taken here. It helps determine blah blah blah. So my pre-prepared answer for this is over here. And my answer was the information in a financial plan should both determine or plan future actions for the organization as well as monitor how the current performance is tracking. The plans rely on good systems to collect and analyze every aspect of financial operations and performance. Managers can use two common budget types, fixed and flexible, for periods when there is a certain level of predictability in planning. I use fixed, and other times when considerations are more volatile, flexible. So that's what I've gleaned from my note-taking back here. So I'm fairly happy with that answer, so I'll now copy that and paste that in and immediately save that. And moving on to the next question. What are the reports that can be used for financial planning in an organization? So once again, I've copied and pasted that down. And I wasn't 100% sure on the answer that was really required here, so I've answered it in two parts, and both parts are quite different. So what are the reports that can be used for financial planning in an organization? Well, there are reports that come from financial planning in terms of they're the benefit of financial planning. So profit and loss statements, balance sheets, revenue and expenditure, debtor, creditor, cash flows, and that's all from my reading and note taking. But they sort of come from the financial planning, whereas the question might be suggesting, well, what do I use to do the financial planning? So to back myself up there, I then sort of scoured through my reading a bit more and found an area where I'd noted that financial plans themselves, so when you're actually doing the planning stage, you'll be needing both internal and external data. So internal data will be things like the company vision and the operational plans that have been established, and external data that's going to help me do my financial planning will be things like market analysis, trends, political and social influences. So I've sort of provided an answer in two parts because I didn't think this was exactly what the answer was after, so I just read a little bit deeper into my note taking. Copy that information, paste it in, again, done. And moving on to the next question. What is the purpose for preparing budgets or other financial plans? So once again, I had a look at my notes. And my note taking was actually a bit sketchy around here. I wasn't overly happy with it, but I did find that in my note taking that the information that I was after, if I can find it, here we go, was on preparing budgets and financial reports. Preparing budgets, financial plans. So that, you know, it's a bit of a match there. But when I actually looked at my data there, it was a little bit sketchy, and I certainly didn't want to just copy and paste that in as my answer. So I actually returned to my reading, my original reading here, and luckily I'd placed the page number reference there, so I could actually go straight to the page and figure out, well, where did I get that data from? And it was from one of these interactive pages. So once I sort of had a read through that again and I had a look at the question again, that then let me provide my summary of an answer here. So what is the process for preparing budgets or other financial plans? Okay, so company will need a sound process to follow that will do these things, and these things here were based on this little interactive slide. So let them know what data to collect, where to source the valid data from, classify the data to make sure it meets accounting codes requirements, calculate information such as cost, profit and loss, break even, skillfully assess and report on the data analysis, and keep accurate and secure results. And the other note that I made, and this was based on the information on my note taking on the page, the plans for this budget or financial plan need to be achievable, and a good way of doing that is by using historical data. So once again, happy with that answer, copy it in, paste it in, and save it. And moving on to the next question. What two forms of budgeting might be used? And I've already mentioned actually back here somewhere, I think, fixed and flexible budgeting. So that was a nice easy one for me to answer. And so rather than just saying fixed and flexible, and your trainer may allow that, I've elaborated a bit more on, again, what fixed and flexible budget types were. So when you've got a certain level of predictability in the business, you can use fixed budgets, and at other times where things are a bit more volatile, you use flexible budgets. So try to avoid just simple, I could have answered it fixed and flexible, but it would be helpful to show that I've actually gleaned a little bit more information than just the name. So a bit of an explanation of what fixed and flexible are is good. Now, and actually the next questions actually then build on that. What form of budget allows changes to be made? And I should go down and hit save, but I'll risk it. I'll just go on. Which form of budget allows changes to be made? Flexible. Now, again, I could just say flexible budgeting, but it really doesn't show that I've acquired much knowledge. So I've said flexible budgeting and then explained my understanding of flexible budgeting. So flexible budgeting is designed to be more responsive to change. A challenge that comes with flexible budgeting is the complexity of accommodating for all those various scenarios, i.e. the flexibility. And remember, this is a plan. It's something that you do ahead of time, not after the fact. So you can't say, oh, this is a flexible budget that'll change. The changes need to be built into different scenarios within that budget ahead of time. So there are certainly challenges with providing that flexible budget, but the benefits are your preparedness for changing scenarios. So I've tried to establish there that I've got a good grounding of the considerations of flexible budgeting rather than just saying flexible budgeting here. Okay, and then we've got a couple more questions about contingency, and I do remember reading about contingency back here, and I took some notes. And explaining how contingency plans work, and here is my response. So a company should plan for many scenarios, good and bad. The contingency plan will allow a company to capitalize on the good or mitigate or reduce the chance of impact of change of the bad. A company needs to plan for common changes in business as well as specific changes local to their industry. So there are certain things that any business should have a contingency plan for, but then there are certain things that might be very specific to your workplace. And the company will use risk identification and analysis to rank change and its impacts and likelihood. The analysis then provides for plans to react to those risks. Now that's all come from my note taking here, and I actually think I went back and did a bit more reading too of that part of the website as well. So I grab all that, copy, paste, and I might hit save now. I've only got one question left for this activity. Why should teams or work group members be actively involved in designing and developing contingency plans? And I did take some notes on that, and I went back and did some reading again. And so my answer to that, the team will have insights to the environment, the work environment, that may be otherwise overlooked. Contingency plans should be evaluated as often as all the other planning processes for the organization. And like other plans, the involvement of other stakeholders can result in better plans that have greater buy-in. So grab that, copy, paste, save. From there I can move on to the next activity. So I've got a tick there, 8 out of 8 questions complete, nice. Move on to the next activity. Now what I'll find is that when I start to read this, how can employees be engaged in the preparation of financial reports, allowing details to be easily disseminated among team members? That doesn't really ring any bells for the reading and note-taking that I've done, so that's probably a good indicator that activity 2 is actually coming from part 2 of my reading. And if I just have a quick peek at that, I can see one of the first bullet points is about disseminating relevant details. Come down here, disseminate among team members. So I know that I've sort of hit the point now where I need to return to my reading, my note taking, and then come back and attempt part 2.